Okay, welcome to Tales from a Disappearing City. This episode, I've got my new friend, because I've only known you but really the past year, Johnny, but Johny Brown from Band of Holy Joy.
Absolutely. Hi, Neil.
Hi, how you doing, man? Thanks for coming over today.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, I know despite the accent, you've been living in London and South London quite a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I moved to London 1980.
Yeah,
so I'm 64, 65 now, so most of my adult life has been London.
Yeah, so all right, so where did you originally grow up? You know, you got that lovely lilting accent, or? I
grew up in a town called North Shield on the coast of Newcastle. Spent me formative years there. Sort of grew. It's like a sort of. It used to be an industrial, fishing, coal mining sort of town. Quite wild.
Yeah.
Quite sort of.
Wild in what way?
Just quite a wild town.
Yeah.
Yeah, North Shields people are pretty. They're quite.
All right.
Willful, spirited.
Yeah. So you know, what's your early musical sort of memories from growing up there?
11, 12 years old, I was into T-Rex, I was into Bowie and stuff, but it wasn't really. That was always just a bit above us. I sort of came to with punk rock.
So I guess golden years of start of punk rock is what, 76.
76 for me, yeah.
When did you first hear about it?
Reading about it in NME. We grew up on this estate and on a council estate. Me and this guy Rob, and we just wanted to make music. And on the other estate it was a bit posher, and they were all into Status Quo and Wings.
Yeah.
And they all had these denim waistcoats embroidered, and they were all smug and just complacent, and we knew where the energy was. You when you're 15, you go towards.
So you were 15 in 1976, or
76? Yeah.
Yeah,
and we'd been totally into Bowie and into T-Rex and Cockney Rebel. It was just a natural thing. You just go towards where the main light is, the main energy.
Do you remember what you saw in NME or Melody Maker or any of them?
Just reading about the Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
The Sex Pistols are coming. We're not into music, we're into chaos.
Yeah.
I was absolutely into chaos. And I knew how this, and just the way they looked was, this post-Bowie thing with the short spiky hair and the mod sort of clothes and the ripped and torn and crucifixes upside down. The bondage, I just knew. This is me. And we'd also been getting into the Velvets and Iggy and stuff. Metallic KO'd came out.
Oh, you heard about Velvet Underground at that point?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, through Bowie, you got into Lou Reed. My first Velvets album was Max's. Live at Max's, Kansas City.
Yeah, okay.
That came out at the end of 1976. First Stooges album I heard was Metallic KO. That came out end of 76.
Just like you said, like Bowie, or... He sort of resurrected. Well, he didn't resurrect them. He kind of did. He sort of produced them, didn't he? Him and Iggy. He sort of brought them out.
Both of them, yeah.
In the fact that he's there going, actually, I love both these artists.
Yeah.
It
was all building. It was all building towards something. But the Pistols were something different. You just knew they were just your age, and it was like, wow. And I knew how they sounded even before I'd heard them.
Well, I was going to say, they were one of them bands. When they eventually did get signed, a lot of people saying they were one of them bands that a lot of people didn't know what they sounded like, because unless in a lot of their early gigs there was virtually no one there.
Yeah.
Obviously it started building up through 1976, but then a lot of people hadn't heard them.
Yeah.
They didn't release a single, did they, until end of November 1976.
Yeah. Well, I had a ticket for the Anarchy tour at the City Hall in Newcastle, and that it got cancelled, because of the whole Bill Grundy thing. And I remember being sort of, and even then I was coming to school, I was still 15 at this point. Then in 76 I was coming to school in drain pipes, and I had this short spiky hair. And I remember the headmaster got us up on assembly in front of the whole school, and went and he got the Daily Mirror cover. He went, "These are dirty punk rockers, and this boy is a filthy punk." And he just pushed us off the stage in the assembly, flying. The whole school just got up, round of applause. Dirty punk, dirty punk, dirty punk.
Were they chanting that?
Chanting it, yeah.
Oh my God.
So early, this was the day after.
How did you feel about that?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
I just want to say, for those who are not like punk geeks like me or you, the Bill Grundy thing was the one where they were on TV. They got last minute. I think Queen pulled out. They put them on at basically dinner time, live on the Bill Grundy show on ITV, and obviously Bill Grundy was a bit, started provoking them at the end, And then Steve Jones basically just lays into him and just starts calling him a fucking rotter and all that sort of stuff. And, and they basically just, you know, demolish like Bill Grundy and like live on air and you know, and next day all the papers like the Mirror and the Sun and all that are just, you know, like you said, it's the headlines of, you know, dirty punks.
Dirty punks. And I was a dirty little punk. But around the same week, I was playing truant from school, playing the WAG, and we were in this really posh record shop in Newcastle called Windows, in this arcade, and they had a record store in the basement. And I just looked up, and there on the video was a promo video for Anarchic in the UK. So I just watched it, and it went on repeat. I waited till it came round again, and they turned the sound up. And that was before the single came out, and that was it. It was just like, wow, I was just totally enraptured from that moment. And then I was 15, but I started hanging around in Newcastle at night time, and I'd made some friends who were about 21 years old, and they were students.
Wow.
And a couple of working class kids too, and they went to Manchester to see the Pistols. So they taped it on cassette. So I had a cassette of the Pistols at the Electric Circus or something. And that was me.
Yeah, I think they played Electric Circus.
And I played this to death. I just played it over and over again. And I loved it. I just absolutely, you know, so I knew all the songs. And then, 77 came about, The Damned. So I think The Damned was the first punk band I saw at the Poly. They lasted 4 songs and got bottled off.
At Newcastle?
At Newcastle, yeah. Again, I was still only 15.
Yeah, wow.
And it was just like, wow, I love that first Damned album. And then we saw the Vibrator supporting Iggy Pop, and that was again opening up. And we had a punk band. We had a band called Speed.
Right.
Me and this guy Rob. And at that point, there was 3 punk bands in Newcastle, early '77. There was Speed. There was a band called Raw, run by this hairdresser who's still one of my best mates. And there was Penetration.
Oh wow, yeah, okay.
And Penetration were about 5 years older. They had Peter, who's managing them, who's now Cindy Stern. Peter was just so cool, and he was just from another planet.
Well, I know Peter, aka Cindy, they talk about seeing the Pistols in, I think it was Middlesbrough. And
they put them on. Peter put them on.
Yeah, exactly. And that was when in mid '76 or something like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know.
So Penetration were well ahead of the game.
But like you said, they were 5 years older, or whatever, than you.
Yeah.
At that age, that's almost like being a pensioner. It's a massive difference in ages.
Of course, yeah.
You know, as in someone, you know, so the fact you're hanging out with some people as well, like you said about the students that were like 20, 21.
Yeah.
That's a big gap. So what?
It's a really big gap. Yeah.
So you know, when they were cool with you, was like because again as a 20-year-old, seeing as a 15-year-old, that you see people as a little kid at that age. Or...
Well, when there's only 20 sort of punks in a city and you're getting beaten up every day. Age doesn't matter. Gender didn't matter. You know, it's just you were just punks together.
Oh, right.
It was the first one that broke up and everything. You know, it didn't matter whether you were anything. You were a punk and you were hated. Yeah. It was, it brought you together on a really.
Do you remember what you were wearing? Because
then I was 15. I was just wearing. I sewed me flares in. You know.
Because what I quite like some of the photos of the early punk scene is kind of like the ones before. Especially the ones in '76 for them sort of gigs. A lot of the people attending the gigs, they didn't have like the punk uniform.
No.
So a lot of it is really, if you like, it's very basic, and again, it's all handmade stuff.
Yeah.
And in one way, it is really DIY fashion.
Yeah.
Like as much as we might talk about Vivian Westwood a little bit and all that sort of stuff, but like again, if you're from Newcastle, you're not going down to Westwood, or you can afford all them sort of clothes.
No,
but all the pictures of the original punk, kid punks, they're all like literally got homemade, cut up blazers and all sort of stuff like that. So what was that? That was the sort of stuff you were doing.
We were going to Oxfam getting stuff, and I was just all me clothes that had flowery collars on, they all just came straight off, ripped off. Right. And we got stencils. You just stencil on hate, war, whatever, so we made our own clothes then at that point, and then gradually it just got into sort of wearing black t-shirts, white t-shirts, drain pipe jeans, and then by summer of '77 I'd left school, and in September me and my best friend got a job on a building site,
right,
and we were pulling in like 70 quid a week. 16 years old. Then I started buying bits of seditionaries.
Yeah, okay.
I got a blue parachute jacket. I got the white shirt with the red potato stamps on, and the penny collar that Johnny Rotten wore.
Did you mail order them, or did you go down and get them, or?
I bought one off a friend and I went down. We started going out to London and started buying them, expensive, But when you earn 70 quid a week and you're living with your mum and dad still.
Well, I'm trying to think, but like 70 quid a week was probably quite a lot of money.
It was a lot, yeah.
It was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much you paid for some of the Seditionaries clothes, or was that just...
Those shirts were 30 quid.
Okay.
The parachute jackets were 50 quid.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You still got all them, Johnny?
No, gone.
Yeah.
I came to London and a girlfriend followed us down in New Cross. She ran off with a guy who played saxophone. This was 1981.
Oh my God.
And I was really happy. I was just in London. She went, I'm going to punish you. She said, I know what's going to hurt you. Not me running off. She said, I'm taking your Anarchy single and I'm taking your Vivienne Westwood.
Oh my God.
She took it.
Oh, what?
A lot. I said, go on. I just glad,
Well, if she's out there and she wants to return them now, she feels bad. Get in touch, because let's just say some of the the original.
I actually held on to the potato shirt. I had a blue one and I had a white one, the red ones, and I did something really foolish in about 1986 or 87. This girl made shirts. I gave her. I said, "Yeah, can you make us a copy of that?" I got the copy, never got the original back.
Oh my God.
Oh
my God. Well, yeah, I know. Well, do you know what? I used to lend stuff out. This was years ago, and now this is why I've got such a. I never lend stuff out.
Don't ever lend your stuff out. Yeah.
I never lend stuff. I never lend books or records out now, because over the years there's a few really rare books and records, and I don't think I ever lent clothing out. But and I haven't got them back, and then it's always the ones that end up being. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And obviously, in 1986, you didn't really know that all that stuff is going to be.
No, you didn't. To be honest, by the end of '77, I was done with punk rock. Done with it. It was just it had no. I was 16, 17. It was done. We were moving on.
Yeah, well, do you know what? Again, and this is the thing, I've talked to a few people recently, is like, that's what people forget, that people were quite embarrassed by punk, a few years after, because it was just like, oh yeah, it all blew up, and suddenly it was all this thing, and then it was like, oh yeah, but we're not punks anymore, and that was just like some, like I said, that was almost like some little kiddie sort of thing. It didn't work out, and basically it went commercial and all that. It didn't. Through '77, didn't it? It suddenly turned in, and like I said, at the start, people were doing all the homemade sort of clothes, and suddenly everyone had their own sort of uniform of punk. Yeah. Well, for us, we also had this band Speed. We were all about being young and being dressed in chaos and stuff, and it was really pure. And at the start of '78, we played a gig in Newcastle, and this band came and supported us. And they're about 4 years older, and they could all play their instruments, and they knew what to say at this point. It was the Angelic Upstarts. Oh, and they'd been playing the clubs as a rock band for years. Yeah. And they just turned into punk, and they all went swastikas. Yeah. I thought, it's over for me. That was it. That was me. I was doing the blues off the stage. Absolutely blew off the stage. So older, they could really play the new dynamics. But it wasn't punk, it was rock. Yeah, but there was a lot of them bands. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel they were like Slaughtering the Dogs and all them sort of bands, that played with the Pistols in Manchester. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, they were kind of wannabe glam rockers who sort of, tried to be punks and all that. Funnily enough, I heard I bought the Roxy album the other day. Yeah. The Live at the Roxy. Oh yeah, right, yeah. And actually, the Slaughtering the Dog. There's 2 Slaughtering the Dog songs on there. And one of them could be the Buzzcocks. Yeah, okay. It's really good. It's really, but they got more glam as they went on. I think, obviously they came from glam, but that early punk thing, they were quite sort of. Yeah. They were a good band. You said you did some gigs with Speed. Did you ever do any recordings or anything, or like? None. We were so young, so naive. Yeah. It was, to us, playing a gig in Newcastle was the ultimate. Getting out of North Shields playing. Right. Do you remember some of the songs that you had? Yep. Come on, give us some titles and like Chaos. Chaos, I'm in a mess. Chaos, you're in a mess. Chaos, I'm in a mess. Chaos, everyone's in a mess. There's another one called Job Shop. Do you know what? I've got that a cappella now, Johnny. I might sample that, and I'm going to do some speed edits. Sample it. Well, do you know what? I should record some really bad guitar. And like, say it's an original 76 recording or 77, you know, and probably put that out a 7-inch and get a fortune. But sorry, what was the other one you said? The other ones?
Job shop, I don't want a job. job shop, put me on the dole.
Yeah.
You know, when you're 15, 16.
Yeah.
And street rats.
Yeah.
I can't remember the rest of it.
All right, because I think I told you before there was a band called The Grout. And they were like loads of school kids.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one of the rarest punk records. In '77, they were school kids and they put out their own punk record, 99 copies.
Wow.
And on their label, their own label, which they called Urinating Vicar Records. And I think original copies of that have sold up to like $1,000, you know, because again, and they've all got names. I can't remember what the names are. Funny enough, I got a repress a few years ago. And again, it's all like very raw. But yeah. They were from the time, and they almost sounded like probably what you would have sounded like if you'd managed to do a record at that time.
Oh, I'd love to hear it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? I'll try and dig it out later and play it to you.
Yes, please.
You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Within that year, though, we played lots of gigs, and we were just us, but we were young. We couldn't really sort of sustain it.
Yeah.
Whereas Penetration were older. They did come to London. They got a record deal. They were just more attuned. I love Penetration. I'm a total fan. The other band, Raw, that was my friend. He owned a hairdresser's. He was 21 years old. He owned a hairdresser's in Newcastle. So the basement of his hairdressers in the centre of Newcastle was where we started rehearsing.
Okay, yeah.
And it, so we're tuned into that style thing.
Yeah.
You know, it was very much style was a big part of it. And I saw the White Riot tour, Clash.
Yeah.
I liked them there. I've always been a Sex Pistols.
Do you know what? Me too. I'm not. You know, I don't mind the Clash's first album. Second album is fucking terrible.
Terrible, yeah, absolutely.
Fucking terrible.
Yeah. The first album still gives you a little jolt.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
I love Subway Sect on that. Like, I loved the Slits. So that was really good. The White Riot tour.
Yeah.
But the Clash, the minute they came on the stage, it just kicked off. All the football firms came in, and it turned. It was a riot.
Well, do you know what I mean? Like, because people go on about the Sex Pistols being a manufactured band, but the Clash were even more manufactured.
Absolutely manufactured, yeah.
And it's like Bernard Rhodes.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, you know, Bernard Rhodes is one of them. He's one of them weird characters, Bernard Rhodes. You know, because he's meant to. You know, I think he gave. Some people say he gave the name for the Sex Pistols and all the stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I know he's best mates with McLaren, and almost, you know, when McLaren did the Pistols, Bernard Rhodes did the Clash. But there's not many interviews with him online. There's actually, you know, and a lot of people just go on about, well, just don't say very nice things about Bernard Rhodes. He was quite intense, but you know, he created the Clash, didn't he?
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. And Dexter's Midnight Runners at Subway Sect.
Yeah.
He's behind all those bands.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. He's one of them that, like, I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I think he put loads of people's noses out of joint. There's one sort of clip on YouTube of him sort of ranting at something because he died a few years ago. But, you know, so I think he was quite hard to deal with. But yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I've always been trying to find out more about him because I only hear bits via McLaren and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know Mick Jones tells all these sort of stories, you know. Because Subway Sect as well, incredible.
Love them.
Ambition, I love Ambition.
Yeah.
That's one of my favourite singles from that era.
Yeah, and again, it's just forward thinking, you know. It's just thinking away from punk and moving on. I mean, I saw the Pistols. I saw them on the Spots tour, Middlesborough Rock Garden, and by that time in Newcastle, would managed to open our own club, Gatsby's, in a gay club in Whitley Bay on the seafront, the only place where we would go and not get hassled. So you had a load of working class stylish kids, you had a load of students, and by this time there was 30 or 40 of us. And I was in there one night, and the TV cameras came down to do an expose of the punk rock horror. So my friend Ricky and Jimmy, they ran the club. They were about a bit older than me. Johnny, will you do an interview for the telly? I says, yeah. So it's 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm in this gay club with my arms around I'm still only 15. I just turned 16. We arm around these two women and talking about punk rock, you know. Yeah. And they says, so Johnny, what do you think about the Teddy Boys? Because obviously the Teddy Boys thing had been in the press that week, you know. Teddy Boys, I says, I don't know any. I says, it's the Northern Soul as we hate. because we were getting beaten up every week off the Soul Boys, you know.
I was going to say, was there Teddy Boys up north? Like,
There was, but we never saw them.
yeah.
Whereas, you know, it was Soul,
Yeah.
Disco Boys, and Northern Soul was massive
Yeah.
in Newcastle. And they were the people who were targeting us, Beer Boys and Soul Boys.
Yeah.
That's who we were getting targeted of. You never saw Teddy Boys.
I think that was more like London
It's
South
London,
thing.
yeah, it was a London thing. It was a King's Road thing, wasn't it?
Well, it was, but original Teddy Boys back in the day, they were from Elephant and Castle. They reckon they all started around there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm talking like 50s.
50s, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But anyway, I went on telly and I said this, you know. A week later, I'd forgotten about it, you know. A week or two later, I'm sat with my mum and dad and I'm eating my dinner. The telly comes on, doesn't it? And now we expose the punk rock horror that's shaken the country and has reached Newcastle. And it shows my friend Ricky walking down Northumberland Street. He's got blue hair and he's got his Adidas bag. He's a shoplifter, you know. He's one of my best friends. This is Ricky Weatherburn. He runs Gatsby's, a punk club and a gay club. My dad went, pfft. She went, no, I went, that's your friend Ricky? I says, yes. Next thing, we now speak to Johnny, singer in Van Speed. My dad just went, wow, just smacked us. You know, my mum went, in a gay club, you know, what are you doing? Yeah. The punk thing was bad enough for them, you know, all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You're ticking all the wrong boxes there, Johnny, yeah.
And my dad went, you're grounded. I says, what? I'd never even heard this word, you know, grounded.
Yeah. He
says, you're not going out for the next 2 weeks. I says, Dad, I'm 16, I'll do what I want. He says, not in this house, you won't. He said, are you paying rent? I went, no, I hadn't. He went, as long, you know, you're staying in. I thought, God, so I went upstairs and the phone rang. And it was this girl, Angie, my little punk friend, you know. She went, Johnny, the Sex Pistols are playing Middlesbrough tomorrow. She says, we'll meet at 12 o'clock at the Senate Bar, Newcastle. That's okay. For the next morning, I just jumped out the window. That was it, I was off. Boom.
Is there any clips of this?
Pistols?
I know of the clips of you on TV.
I have no idea. I have no idea.
You never found it? Or?
Never seen it. Never seen it since.
What? So that wait a minute. I'm just trying to date that. That's December 1977.
No. This was summer '77.
Summer '77.
By this time, this is summer '77.
Oh yeah, okay, right.
This is right at the height of it, and it's okay. It's God Save the Queen's been out, Pretty Vacant's been out.
Okay, all right.
It's they did a summer tour.
Okay, yeah.
Under assumed names called the Spots, and they played Wolverhampton, the Lafayette. They played down in Cornwall. They played, I think, Liverpool, Eric's, but they played Middlesbrough, Rock Garden.
Wow. Okay.
So I jumps out the window, gets to Newcastle, get a train to Middlesbrough. I've written all this down.
Yeah.
Get off the train, we're walking through the streets, and all of a sudden this white van pulls up. This big guy trundles out, he walks over to us. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get a slap here. He went, mate, where's the rock garden? I saw it's down there, and I looked behind him. I could see this red spiky hair and this black spiky hair. It's Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious in the back of this van. I went, here, it's the Sex Pistols. And this guy went, fucking shut up. Did a mock punch, you know. Yeah. I just ducked. He went, shut up. He went, where is it? I says, down there. He says, right. He jumps in the van. So we just followed straight, and it was just a block down.
Yeah.
So we just followed straight in, and we followed them in, and we sat and watched them sound check.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
On like a Wednesday afternoon, you know, just watching the sound check. Didn't have tickets or nothing. We just got on the train because we'd heard, and it was the night before I'd been on the telly, you know. Wow. And I sat there watching. They finished the sound check. The bouncers came in. They went, right, everybody out. I was the last to leave. As I left, this door opened, and this big guy again, he came out. He just grabbed us. He just fucking threw us in the dressing room, this dressing room. The guy was Boogie, this guy John Tiberius. And he just threw us in front of Steve Jones. I was only little, I was only 16, skinny, you know. He says, tell him the time. I says, eh? He says, tell him the time. I went, 3:30. He says, tell him the time again. I went, 3:30. My head was whirring. I was thinking, what's going on here? Did they get people in the back in the dressing room and beat them up for a laugh or something? It got quite sort of heated, you know. I went, hey man, it's 3:30. And I looked and then just started laughing. Tell you, Steve, they all talk funny up here. I went, right, okay. And Steve Jones went, where have you came from? I said, Newcastle. He went, Newcastle? He says, it's fucking Scotland, ain't it? I says, more or less. He went, it's like 100 miles up the road. I went. He went, have you got a ticket? I went, nah. He went, Boogie, get him a ticket. He says, have a drink. And he handed us this can of that breaker, that malt breaker that everyone drank in 1977. You know?
I think you showed your age there. That's a 70s thing. They don't do that anymore, do they?
Have a drink, son. So for the next 2 hours, I sat and talked to Steve Jones and Paul Cook.
Wow.
While they fed us cans of breaker lager.
Do you remember any conversations with them? What they were
Talked
saying?
about football.
Yeah.
Talked about Chelsea.
Yeah.
Talked about Newcastle. We talked about clothes.
Yeah.
I saw him in a band. I was telling us how to go about things.
Yeah.
Drop Malcolm a letter, that sort of thing.
Is that what they said to you? Yeah.
Cracking on, you just talking on. Johnny Rotten just kept himself to himself in the corner, just really quiet, just said was comatose, literally comatose, just gouged out.
Smacked out or probably, who knows?
I imagine smacked out, you know, but just totally gouged out, yeah. And then after 2 hours, I went, right, we're going to the hotel. There's your ticket, see you later. Wow, so again, I just sort of followed them out, and as I followed them out, there was a queue right round the rock garden. And because I'd been on the telly the night before, the whole place just went, whoa! Penetration were in the queue, you know?
Yeah.
Just, I got the complete...
You must have felt like a superstar at that moment. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. And 3 mates ran up and went, Johnny, I said, look, I've got a ticket.
Yeah.
They went, get in there, get the back door open. So they got us in the front, carried us over. I was about one of the first ones in. I just ran straight to this door and just opened the doors. 10 of my Newcastle mates came in.
Wow, amazing.
I can't remember anything else.
Yeah.
I remember the sort of gig around kicking off.
Probably all them beers had kicked in by then.
Just the excitement, you know, it's down the front and the start of anarchy and they started cracking in there. But one thing I knew, they weren't as good as the tapes I had when Glenn Matlock was in them, you know.
Yeah.
You could feel it wasn't as good, you know, but it was an event and it was just like, wow. So I left and I ended up in Durham with this girl, Jane, who I'd started seeing.
Yeah.
I thought, I can't go home, I've run away from home now, you know. So I went and lived in this hippie house in Newcastle for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I thought I'd best ring my mother after a week. And I says, yeah, Mum, I've run away from home. She went, well, I've gathered that, son. She went, anyway, I know where you are. You're at Hayden's house. Hayden was this little punk mate I had, you know, I went, nah, Mum, you're 15 miles out, you know. And after 2 weeks, I stunk. I mean, it was a proper Newcastle squat, you know. And I thought I'd best go home, you know. So after 2 weeks, I went home.
Well, what was the reaction like at home?
Well, I'd proved my point, you know, I think.
I guess happy, but happy you're back, but also, well, was your dad all right?
My dad was fine. I started work 2 weeks later on the building site, you know.
Well, in a way, I guess fine. You showed your mettle there as well.
Yeah. Then I moved out about a year later. Even 6 months later, I moved out. Start of 78, I think.
Right.
Mid 78. I moved, me and my best friend Chess got a flat with his older brother. So I was independent from that age on, you know.
All right, so what happened after then? Then you moved out?
Moved out. Obviously punk was dead. I liked a bit of post-punk. I liked Pale. I liked the psychedelic furs. But I was really getting into disco music and I was really getting into funk. That was where it was at for me. Bands, people like Change, Search and stuff like that, 1980, you know, Funkadelic in 78. I loved all
but you know what? I mean,
Brass Construction.
Stuff like that. Stuff, I mean, again, maybe it's my prejudice, but I see that more as the southern sort of sound. Well, you know, obviously you had the northern soul sound up north.
I didn't get the northern soul at all when I was in Newcastle.
Yeah. Well, I guess, to be honest, I guess if they were trying to beat you up, that's...
Well, that television thing too, there was a contract out of my head. Right. We're going to kill him.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
well, maybe some northern soul fans will see it now, Johnny, and, you know...
I love Northern Soul. About 50 Northern... There's a lesson here.
Me too.
About 50 Northern Soulers came down. But there's these two girls who I grew up with, Susan and Sylvia Henderson. And they were Northern Soulers. But they were hanging around with the punks. And there was a punk called Manus, who was a top Northern Souler. And these two girls just talked them out of it. And actually a load of Newcastle West End sort of football hooligans who tagged onto punk, they came down to fight the Northern Soulers on my behalf. Didn't want this to happen at all. I was 16 years old, you know. Susan and Sylvia just talked them out of them. Look, it's Johnny. He's just... And then Manus got us in the toilet and he had this bandage, sort of bondage outfit on, you know, with a quiff. And he had this badge on, Keep the Faith.
Yeah.
He says, Johnny, what's that? What a Northern Soul badge that man is. He says, do you realise what you've just said on TV? He says, Johnny, you're working class. I'm working class. Northern Soulers are working class. Punks are working class. We don't fight each other, Johnny. There's a different enemy out there.
Wow, amazing.
This is where youth, we stick together. wow, it was like, wow, that was one of my first big lessons in life, you know.
Do you know, well, that's a pretty profound thing to say in a toilet, wherever,
Yeah, in a gay club in Whitley Bay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. There you go. That's where you saw the light.
Yeah, I saw Manus on Sunday. Holy Joy played a gig in Brighton.
Oh, really?
And he's still, yeah. When I came to London and I was living in New Cross, I hooked up with these 3 girls, Leslie, Maureen and Adele, and they were Northern Soulers. And Maureen had been a teacher in Newcastle when we were punks. And Leslie, and they were Northern Soulers. And Maureen won all these trophies for Northern Soul dancing. They were proper Wigan. Maureen and Leslie then sat us down and played us all these Northern Soul records and all these soul records, and I loved it. And then Sue and Sylvia moved to London, and Sylvia married Eddie Crosdall, who ran 6Ts, and Sue shacked up with Sean McCluskey.
Okay, yeah.
So, and did all those early, again, pre-acid house clubs. So I became really good friends with Sean, and I became really good friends with Eddie. So actually Northern Soul quickly became a big part of my life. But that, you know, when you're 16, it's just stupid, you know.
No, well, yeah, no. Again, when you're 16, whatever music you like then is the best, and you hate everything else, which is kind of the way it should be anyway.
Yeah.
But then once you get beyond that, you start realising, because, you know, I never used to... I was kind of into my punk new wave at that age as well. Obviously, I was a bit past that sort of time. But I wouldn't listen to anything before 1975, you know, or 76, you know what I mean? Because that was, year 0 was 1976, you know? Yeah. Or guitar-wise, you know, and then, I would check out Velvet Underground and Stooges and start checking all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't really hear much proper Northern Soul until late 80s when I lived in a house with like some couple of Northern lads who played me loads of tapes of the stuff, and I was actually like, wow, this is...
It's immense, yeah.
You know, because I was always into the funk and rare groove sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it took me a while to really get the Northern sort of soul sort of vibe. But I love that music.
Yeah.
Now.
I mean, I wish I'd went to Wigan Casino. You know, I wish I'd went a few all-nighters in Chester-Leigh Street and places around Newcastle, but never went to Wigan or anywhere. I wish I had of. And obviously when the 6T started at the 100 Club, I was a regular there, going to lots of 80s dues. Wow, but... And then you realise, music's music. You know, you find the best bits of everything.
I mean, it's interesting because a lot of the early punk scene down south, a lot of them people that were fans of it were into like the soul boy sort of jazz funk sort of scene. Yeah. You know, a lot of the
Clash played the Lazy Lady.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's a great Instagram site like that sort of soul boy site. And there's all like photos from the mid-70s of some of the soul boys wearing like Vivienne Westwood sort of punk sort of clothes from 76. But they're out like the Lacy Lady or something like that, or basically they're out of soul do.
Yeah, the moorhead jumpers, the peg trousers, the plastic sandals,
no, exactly,
the Bowie wedges, all.
No, exactly. So there was a real big sort of link, from the Bowie glam stuff into the soul boy stuff. Also into the punk stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And again, it was more like the fashion and the sort of underground sort of stuff, and some bits linked with the gay scene. Like I said, like the gay scene was strongly linked to a lot of that sort of stuff because it was the look and the clothes. Yeah. You know. So it's weird in a way hearing you saying about the Northern Soul crew were the enemy, but I guess like you said, that's just a territorial sort of thing.
That was just me being stupid,
but you know, I mean, I guess down south we had all the sort of Teds and all that, and again all the Teds would. I mean, you mentioned all the violent stuff. That's what people don't really remember them times.
Every weekend we get beaten up.
It was
every single weekend.
Yeah. Yeah,
you
exactly.
get a slap or you get a good kicking. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyone who looked remotely different, you'd get like, you know.
But it made you feel really alive.
Yeah.
I can't explain this. It made you feel really, you know.
I mean, I think I showed you some photos before we started from the early 80s, and again, I remember dressing up. I can't believe I used to dress up in the way I did, really, and you know. I don't know if it's brave or stupid sometimes, but again, you'd run the gauntlet going out dressed just like you were in South East London.
Absolutely,
You know, or even in the West End of London, you know, you get people wanting to beat me up.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, Eltham, you know, it was, Sidcup, they're rough places.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. All right.
Swanley.
Yeah, Swanley, fucking hell.
Did you go to Cranwoods?
No, I went to Abbeywood Comprehensive.
Right,
You know, we used to have fights at Cranwoods, yeah. But yeah, Abbeywood Comprehensive. I remember a friend of mine, she was a supply teacher, and she said that when she heard I went to Abbeywood Comprehensive, she was like, that was the one school in London if we got sent there as a supply teacher, we're like, that's, you're going to the worst of the worst.
Abbey Wood drew from Thamesmead, didn't it? From
it's
Ferriers.
Yeah, it's Thamesmead, Plumstead, all that sort of thing.
Ferriers Estate, that was.
Well, that's Kidbrooke.
That's Kidbrooke.
No,
okay.
that's a bit of, well, yeah. I mean, my sister had a flat there once in the Ferrier. You know, they've redone it recently. I don't know, you know, but that whole South East London area was fucking violent and quite racist. Not far from where Stephen Lawrence got killed in 1990 or whatever it was, you know. But all the British National Party and, you know, there's a lot of that shit going on.
Yeah.
You know, they were based in Welling. I remember being at the Anti-Nazi League riot in the 80s. Anyway, that's rough old area. But a lot of areas where, like you said, it's like just looking different, you get your fucking head kicked in, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so you moved out. And then for about a year, and then you did move down to London, didn't you? Fairly soon after, is that the next sort of step in your life?
Kind of. Well, for 2 or 3 years, I worked on the beach at Whitley Bay, and I just, I'd moved out the house, and getting into a bit of psychedelic drugs, and I was really getting into beatniks, into Jack Kerouac and Burroughs and all that, reading loads as much as I could, and sort of but listening to funk, listening to things like Nuggets, just and whatever good post-punk was out, I love Public Image, I like the Psychedelic Furs, I loved early Dexys, I like Joy Division, I love War Heat, but I love disco music. I was loving all those early Grace Jones records, reading, just opening my mind, but not really doing anything, not doing anything creative. And then I sort of had this weird adventure where I went to Scotland with a woman, and I split up with my girlfriend, and this woman and she came back, and I ended up homeless. And I came to London to a gig. I had to see a band called Cron Chaos. And I've been coming to London a lot. We've been coming down once a month, me and my friends, bunking the train down, and we'd go to King's Road, we'd go to Covent Garden, we'd go to Kensington Market, and we'd go shoplifting. In like sort of 78, 79, 80, there was no tags on anything. There was no cameras. So we'd go to like PX, we'd go to Seditionaries, we'd go to Johnson's. Yeah,
tell me what them shops were like then, because I mean I used to go when it was World's End, early 80s. I mean, again, I probably was...
Swanky Modes in Camden for my girlfriend.
Yeah. What was it like going in Seditionaries?
Wow, it was quite a thing.
Yeah.
It was quite frightening in a way. It was quite... it was quite a foreboding place. You knew you were stepping into somewhere special, and it wasn't like stepping into a normal shop.
No.
You felt it, you felt that
I mean, the first times I went in there, I was quite nervous going in there, because it did feel like, it felt like church for me.
Yeah, it felt like church, yeah. Even when it turned into World's End, it was still... I was in there, funnily, I went in there 3 weeks ago, funnily enough, for the first time in 30 years or something. Just me and Ingo were walking up the King's Road. I said, come on, Ingo, I just want to go into the World's End. And so I went in, they shut the door behind you now, you can't get out. And you still feel it, there's still a vibe of sort of something in there, but it's very touristy and it's very, all the stuff.
Was Lisa in there? I don't know, do you know Lisa who works behind the counter?
I've no idea.
I know, because I was in there last year and I know her and she's like, she
there was a lovely shirt. I said, oh, look at that, Inga. It was only 200 quid, She went, you can't buy that. I said, I can.
Yeah.
I think it was a woman's anyway, but it was this shirt with all stars and planets on. Fuck, that's nice. But all the other stuff, I don't like the men's stuff they do now, where it's sort of sub Ben Sherman.
No.
Sort of.
Well, do you know what? Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've got to be honest, like some of the latest stuff I couldn't really wear. I was too big for that sort of stuff, Yeah,
you've got to be slim and you've got to be...
exactly. As well as obviously the punky stuff, but I love all the pirate stuff they did in the early 80s, all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And there's these jumpers they did in the early 80s that I've always wanted. They're like the Navajo style jumpers.
Oh, wow.
I can't remember what they're actually called. But
I had a gorgeous pair of the pirate trousers, pinstripes.
Oh, my God.
Gold and black sort of pinstripe.
Amazing.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I'd love some of that stuff, but to be honest, the chance of finding that stuff in a size that actually fit me, and obviously like all that stuff now goes for like a fortune, doesn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That period, I loved clothes. And I loved dressing up, and till I was 20, 21. Then when
you still do, Johnny. Every time I see you, you're nicely dressed up. I can see that you like your clothes.
I love clothes. It's important.
I mean, and to me, it's an important. I was going to say it's as important as it kind of is. To me, it's all the same sort of thing. I guess that's the way I'd put it.
Yeah.
The clothes is in there with the music, and the style and all that sort of stuff. That's part of That's part of the thing.
Yeah, the way you carry yourself is really
No,
important.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You know, and because I always think that's, if you like, the mod influence, and like, you know, I don't like the quadrophenia like mob shit where they were wearing parkas. I just think that's horrible.
Yeah.
For me, I'm talking about original mod stuff like late 50s, early 60s in sharp Italian suits.
Italian suits,
you know,
absolutely.
into cool jazz and you know, and stuff like that.
You know, gorgeous polo necks. You know, not the Fred Perry ones. You know, just really nice. Yeah. And
there's that amazing Pasolini film. What's it? It's an early Pasolini film. It's the first one. What's it called? Fucking hell, 1961.
Quorum.
No, what's it called?
Attacker.
Akatoni.
Akatoni.
Yes.
Love it.
Yeah, you've seen that, yeah. Yeah, because it's 61, and it's all set in the slums of Rome, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's got all the pimps and the gangsters.
But they're impeccable.
But Pasolini, he used the real people from the slums.
Right.
A lot of them weren't proper actors, but there's shots where they're just sitting about, and their clothes are fucking incredible. And like I said, and he hasn't styled them. They literally was just using the regular pimps and like sort of little hoods from the scene.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they look fucking incredible. And it almost could be like a modern look. They don't look. It doesn't look old fashioned.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I love that film for the clothes. You know, and again, that's that original sort of style.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, you go. So yeah. All right. So dictionaries. Tell me about PX, because that's the place that I don't. You know, I don't really.
Well, PX was like 1980. It was it was Blitz. It was Steve Strange, and it was Princess Julia.
Yeah, she worked there, didn't she?
Yeah, she worked there. Yeah, and you know, they just look sensational. And it was all almost Russian, German military stuff. Really great.
Because where was it? It was in Covent Garden, but do you remember which part of Covent Garden, or was it Neil Street, or was it Floral Street, or
Floral Street, I think.
Yeah, all right, because it was quite Spartan, wasn't it?
Quite Spartan, yeah. It was one of the two. It was what off Endell Street it might have been.
Okay, all right, yeah.
But it was just again one of those shops where you're like, whoa, when you know, you'd be quite you know, you had a bit of front to go in there.
Because again, I'm a few years younger. You're not loads younger than you, but. So that was probably a little bit before me, but I used to check like Westward, but Kensington Market, I used to go Kensington Market.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, that was a must. And when I came to London, it's weird when I moved to New Cross, I stopped going to the King's Road and Kensington Market for years, but every now and then you'd go up.
Once you're living in New Cross, why do you need to go to the King's Road, Johnny?
Absolutely.
You know, once you live in the dream.
Well, you just change that sort of outlook.
Yeah.
But it's how I came to London. There's this band called Crawling Chaos from my hometown, North Shields. And they were signed to Factory, and they were a bit sort of post-punk, but they were just hippies, really. But they had this gig, and I was at a loose end, and I was actually homeless up at I was 20 years old. I was 19. I just, do you want to come to London? I says, yeah. So I just got in the back of the van, and they played the Rock Garden in Covent Garden, and they played, and they were all right, you know. But my friend Tony walks in. I says, yeah, what are you doing here, Tony? I'm living here now, John. He says, I'm going to a party after this. Are you coming? I says, aye, I'll come. He says, you can stay on my floor tonight, you know. So I went to a party that night. I slept on his floor. And at that party, there's 2 more parties tomorrow in another club. We're going to the Beetroot. So I stayed that night. He says, look, Johnny, you can't stay on the floor anymore. But that night I'd met this girl, Anne, at one of these clubs or one of these parties. She says, Johnny, I've got a squat round the corner from where Tony's living in Elephant and Castle. You can come live with me. Come stay with us. So I ended up sharing this bed with these 2 girls, Anne and Sasha. Anne was the violin player who played on all Soft Cells records, all the Banshees, she was the session man in the 80s, wild little punk rocker. So for 3 months I just lived with Anne. Wow. And Sasha in Elephant and Castle.
Were they the Venomettes or something like that?
Venomettes, yeah. She's one of my best friends, yeah.
Wow, okay, yeah.
She would go busking every day. She'd play the violin and I'd hold the hat, 70 quid an hour, just out in the clubs every single night. I loved it. Yeah. That was 1980. But then I got back with my old girlfriend, and that entailed a move from Elephant and Castle squatting to a housing corp in West Norwood, which was the most boring place on earth. But we were going out Friday nights to the Beetroot. We were going to the Sombrero, just places like that. Studio 21, where Jock McDonald ran sort of nights, Dave Archer, who I think's from your neck of the woods. So I was going out a lot, but it was...
Sombrero was in Kensington, wasn't it?
In Kensington, yeah.
Because that was the old gay club, wasn't it?
Was it the Sombrero? Was it the Daisy?
Oh, right.
It was a club like the Sombrero.
Okay.
It was in Goodge Street.
Yeah, okay.
It'll come to us, me memory.
No, it's all right. Because I think the Sombrero was one in the mid-70s. I think it went on for a few years, but I know...
Wasn't that one, another one you're thinking of?
I know the one, because a lot of the original punks went there. I know people like Philip Salon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm talking like they went there 74, 75, and it was almost one of them that...
It wasn't that.
No.
Yeah, it was, but it was a similar club with a similar name. And it was on the circuit. It was on the circuit of going to Beetroot, going to the Kilt, going to this one, and going to Studio 21. Loved it. I was in London. It was just alive, And then in the housing corp, they says, look, we've got a house in New Cross. Nobody wants to live there. I thought, we'll move there. And my life just exploded from that moment. The moment I moved into New Cross and this place in Billington Road, my life just, bam, it was, being 20 years old. My 3 Northern Soul friends from Newcastle had moved down. I was living with Vic Reeves. I was living with all the guys from Test Department. We were going to Goldsmiths Wednesday nights. We were going to parties every Saturday night around London. So my network was building. And we were going up clubbing every Friday night. And because it was a squat and I was living with Test Department, I think the onus then became on being creative. And it was, Johnny, why aren't you doing anything? You're a writer. I'd never stopped writing. So they started getting us into music again.
If you're in that environment, that's a good place to be, isn't it? Like you said, it's forcing you to do something. Well, you should be doing something,
And Vic Reeves was really he was chin. He'd seen me punk band in 1977 when I was 15. He'd seen us. We played a gig in Darlington, and he was he must have been heavy metal, because it was all heavy metal as we played to. We got thrown off the stage after 4 songs, but he'd seen it and it made a massive impression. So he was going to everyone, Johnny's a singer, Johnny's a vocalist, and I hadn't mentioned. I've been keeping quiet about it, So I sort of got dragged back into doing vocals and doing lyrics
well, like I said, in a way, like I said, like punk was almost embarrassing after like the few years after it. Well, so in one way, it wasn't the coolest. Like now, it's a cool thing to say you're in a punk band then, but maybe in the few years after, it was kind of an embarrassment.
In the 10 years I lived in New Cross, and I lived with Paul and Gray, who'd both been 1977 punks at the Roxy and everything. I lived with Paul Hines, who'd been a punk up in Newcastle. We never mentioned punk. Never mentioned. It was just it was just, Pill got mentioned loads. Public Image was the start of things, and Neubarton and all. It was about moving on. You just didn't mention this past. So I didn't listen to a punk record for the next 30 years. Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
I was quite shocked when I did start listening to punk again, just how good it is.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, again, people forget that like for quite a few years it was like, oh no, it wasn't cool. And again, it's that thing of only in sort of retro looking back that people are suddenly like, I think this is the thing as well, if you like talking about clothes and fashion, like again, I used to look back at some of my old photos and be embarrassed, and that after a few years you're like, no, actually I look pretty fucking cool. Or
of course you do, you look great.
No, but you know what I mean, like again, we have this sort of figure in it, and then then if you like the retro bit kicks in and you realise, like you said, you were living your authentic life at that point. And if you're doing that, you're going to look fucking cool. You're going to look great.
Oh, I loved life then. 1981, 82, 83, 84 were the best years of my lives. I lived with this girl called Max, who I formed a band with, Holy Joy with, and we were both just into clothes. We used to go to Demob a lot, because my friend Leslie worked in Demob.
Tell me about that place, because a lot of people wouldn't know what that was. It's not as famous as some of the other ones. I know it's a known store, but it's not.
Wow, well Demob's a cornerstone of British culture. It was in Beak Street in Soho, and it was owned by a guy called Chris Brick and his wife Sue Brick and Ollie O'Donnell and a few others, and there was a hairdressers in there, and they sold modern English couture. It was mod stuff, sort of reimagined, not reimagined. It was proper tailoring, beautiful tailoring.
Well, again, that's what I'd call the proper. Like again, that's my thing with the proper mod sort of stuff, which pretty much originally come out of. Well, I reckon it's like the gay Jewish tailors just around the back of Carnaby Street, where all the original mods were going to get their suits cut and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the early mods were Jewish, and that's how they picked up that sort.
Yeah.
It was all But this was 1981, and this is London. This is sort of post, but it was the start of that whole dirt box, warehouse party, pre-acid house scene. It was their take on it. They had a warehouse, an arch down in Waterloo, where they had these racks of leather coats full of speed, because there was a bit of dealing going on too, a bit of madness.
Right.
The designer was Willie Brown. Willie's now got the Old England label, clothes label, He makes all this old English sort of rural stuff, rural clothes. But he was the main designer then. It was just a really forward-thinking, beautiful, soulful shop. And I used to go there for my haircuts. I used to go there for my clothes and just hang out, And they were all ex-Northern Soulers who'd came to London, and they were all on the dirt box scene.
Tell me about the dirt box thing, because I did go to some dirt box parties in the 80s, because it was Phil Dirtbox, wasn't it?
Phil Dirtbox, yeah.
Well, yeah. I'm sure his original name wasn't Phil Dirtbox, but yeah.
He was part of that whole Welsh crowd, part of Chris Sullivan and all these guys. The first dirt box was above a chemist's in Earl's Court on a Wednesday night or something, and then they started doing warehouses around London. It was in Stockwell for a while, in a big old community centre, and that would be once a month every Saturday, all nighters. It used to be fantastic, and the music was across the tracks and all that sort of post funk sort of stuff, go Washington sort of go music.
Yeah, I mean I guess that's 84, 85. I think the go sort of stuff, because I do remember hearing, again, this is a story I told before, I heard about a dirt box party in Rotherhithe. And I think it was. I only found out recently that we did a video, myself and Neil Transpontine, about early Sex Pistols rehearsals at this place, the Crunchy Frog in Rotherhithe, and there was a dirt box party. I believe it was at the Crunchy Frog, and I'd heard about it when I lived in Abbey Wood, and we come up the next week thinking it was a weekly thing, and obviously it wasn't. It was just that they had a one-off thing, and we were walking around Rotherhithe on a Saturday night when it was just desolate, just trying to find this sort of. And we had to go home to Abbey Wood, disappointed. But yeah, for years I was sort of, But yeah, that was my first kind of thing, hearing about these warehouse sort of parties that I started to try and search out.
I mean, they were amazing.
Yeah.
Because you'd go into a warehouse party, and there'd be minimal light. There'd be a table set up where people have been to France and brought back a van load of those little Belgian beers.
Yeah.
And be selling them for £3 each, and then a DJ set up, and it's just full blast. And that obviously developed into Mutoid Waste and all those sort of warehouse parties, which again were fantastic. The ones in the bus depot in King's Cross, you'd go in and you'd take your life into your hands. They were fantastic, but nothing ever happened in them. There was never any trouble in them. There was never any casual. Everyone.
I don't remember seeing any fights or anything like that. I mean, for me, tell me your take on it, because again, you're probably a bit more, a few years in advance than me. For me, again, because I used to love the WAG and all that sort of stuff, but there was a lot of the West End clubs were quite hard to get into.
Definitely.
So it was almost like, were they them sort of warehouse sort of clubs a reaction against all that, or because again it was the licensing as well, wasn't it? They go all night. So again. Because most of the West End clubs wouldn't finish much later than 2, would they?
Yeah, no, they'd all be finished 2, maybe 4 o'clock.
I think 4 was really next level if they shut at 4.
Yeah.
Maybe so.
Yeah, I mean, in Soho there'd be places like the Pink Panther that you'd go to at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
And you go up Wardour Street and you just go through a door and up 3 flights of stairs.
I don't know the Pink Panther. Yeah.
Pink Panther was a beautiful club. Lee Bowery and all them ran it, Trojan, and you'd have Boy George DJ and it would literally be a trestle table with a couple of decks on, a trestle table at the other side selling Red Stripe, and a room about twice the size of this, bare, and with some chairs around the side. Everyone's on poppers, and at 2 o'clock would start with, I guess, Boy George's crew. It's their night, and then 3 o'clock you'd get the bouncers coming in and then you get the sex workers coming in about 4.
So it's more like after hours illegal sort of drinking. Yeah, because exactly, that's probably why I don't know it. But Yeah, there was a few of them about.
17s and Moore Street.
I mean, to be honest, I used to see all that crew outside Bar Italia because that always used to be like a hangout at 3, 4 in the morning.
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
In Soho. You'd almost like everyone spilled out on the street and you'd just be loads of just pop stars out on the street. All famous club goers,
Heaven was really big in the 80s. You go to Heaven on a Thursday night, down to Cha-Cha's on a Tuesday, which was in the basement. And that would be regular. Every week you'd go to Heaven, you know.
Oh, in round the back?
Round the back,
in the sound shaft?
Sound shaft, yeah. And they'd be playing rockabilly, they'd be playing Nina Simone, they'd be playing lots of disco.
Well, I was talking to someone recently because I wrote a piece about the early pre-acid house London warehouse scene, and the music was like quite all over the spot, wasn't it? Like it would be like everything from like I said, funk and rare groove, but like I said, you'd get rockabilly,
Louis Jordan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, reggae.
Yeah,
ska.
It wasn't really set, you know. There was no, in one way, until the acid house come in, and then it had like a set sort of theme to it.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the DJs was a bit more, you know, all over the shop, wasn't it? Or there was loads of different sort of looks competing.
Yeah.
Because there was like a 50s thing as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
In the early 80s.
Oh, totally, complete. There's a total rockabilly thing going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Hard Times sort of look.
Yeah, and then you had like Flip, which I remember in Covent Garden. That was, to be honest, that was a big shot for me in the early 80s because I could afford to go in there and I could buy stuff, you know.
Well, when we came down 78, 79, as well as the King's Road, Flip was always on the agenda, always.
Really?
Flip was part of the thing.
Yeah.
You know, you go, and it's all those baseball shirts and all those penny loafers and
exactly. You could get all the Americana sort of stuff, you know, and that, and the Levi's, you know, the white ones with the little red tabs or whatever, you know.
And I think Flip opened up a warehouse on Liverpool Road, which was just out of the way. And that became on the sort of. That became a sort of point of pilgrimage. There is still a Flip in Newcastle.
Really?
Yep.
Oh my God.
Yep.
What? Literally the same?
Literally, Flip is it? Yeah, there's a Flip in Newcastle.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right.
I can still see it. We heard the Flip sign, you know, and also what's entwined with Flip for me is really weird. Is the Scala cinema.
Yeah.
The two, for some reason, go hand in hand. I don't know why.
I guess I should, maybe I didn't really explain what Flip was, because I guess, you know, if you don't know, like Flip was a store, I know it from the early 80s, I don't know when it came over, but they were almost like one of the first ones that really just brought over just loads of American stuff over. So their stores were just full of 501s, Levi's, like you said, baseball jackets, T-shirts, and
Hawaiian shirts.
Exactly, yeah. Priced up, you know, but still affordable. Because I remember first time I'm going over the States in the mid to late 80s, just seeing all that stuff really cheap second hand, and I realised how Flip had bought it all over and marked it all up.
Yeah.
But you couldn't get that stuff here before apart from there, or it was harder to get.
Yeah.
But like that was a massive, they dressed loads of the London sort of club scene.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, because again it was sort of, not everyone could afford to go westward or...
Yeah, I mean a bleached quiff, boys and girls, was such...
yeah, exactly,
You know, and the little red the little red neckerchief, jeans, pale blue Levi's ripped, a pair of base Weegians.
Yeah, and
or a pair
MA1s,
yeah.
Yeah, loads of badges and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, God, and then hip-hop started coming in. You know, the early sort of electro street stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one that really changed the game for me. Was like, street sounds electro, and then getting into clubs like Delirium, and that's did you go Delirium as well?
Probably went.
Yeah.
But by that time, Band of Holy Joy had signed a deal and were taking off. We were just touring. So my sort of clubbing and sort of culture ended then for quite a few years.
All right, I tell you what. Let's go back to the start of the Newcastle Squat, or basically the housing co-op. I guess maybe making music. All right, because some of your the very first music you put out was, what year do you think it was? 1983, I think.
83, yeah.
Yeah, we had to look on Discogs, didn't we, to find the exact year? Because I know, again, I'm like this as well. Again, the years occasionally get merged and mixed up.
Well, by 82, I'd started making music again. I'd started writing and putting little songs together and trying to get some sort of mute band together. And I just
what did that actually mean, though? That was what was that? You sitting with what, or you just writing lyrics, or you just?
That was me writing lyrics and test department had a drum machine.
All right.
And I started going to a lot of junk shops and picking up accordions and harmoniums, old organs.
Remember what drum machine they had? This is just me as a geeky music producer.
Yep. I had a Boss.
Oh yeah.
A Boss. Is it a Dr. Rhythm?
Yes.
Black
55. I think they're the early little ones.
That's yes.
Probably I don't know.
Really hard.
Yeah.
And we had a Roland 808. Really early on.
Wow.
Brett had it, and with the red lights going like that.
Yeah.
Like that. Probably lost, you know. I didn't realise the significance till years later, you know. So we used that's on loads of these cassettes. I didn't really know how to drum program that well. Brett was really good at programming, so all that sort
I've got a feeling the Boss one, I think only had presets. I could be wrong. They might have done one where you could punch in a rhythm, but some of them only had very basic presets.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So like there's some of them that you turn them on and it instantly sounds like a Cabaret Voltaire beat because it is the same pattern. Yeah. But obviously you can still do loads with that, and it's got fills and stuff like that.
Yeah. That was basic. Yeah, it was a basic one. As you heard today when you heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the rolling you could mess about with it a bit more. And we messed about with it quite a bit.
Well, the rolling you can actually do quite a lot with. I mean, obviously I've got one downstairs, but like, just actually, it's more advanced than you think. Actually, the stuff that you can do in the rolling. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, you started doing all these weird sort of sound experiment sort of stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was influencing the music that you wanted, to make? Because you weren't making funk, or you weren't making punk, or you weren't. Were you listening to stuff at the time, or was there stuff that was coming out that was inspiring you too?
Oh, there was loads of stuff that was inspiring me, yeah. I was living with test department, so their industrial thing was obviously just, I was absorbing.
Had they started putting stuff out by then?
They started putting stuff out. Yeah. They were up and running. They were, So I was doing a sort of, almost an opposite of that, of de-industrial sort of music, of sort of taking the stuff and the sound of it falling apart, disintegrating, and it was all late night sort of music, and it was just using a 4-track and just using loops, using cut-ups, using weird sort of instrumentation and putting these weird soundscapes together and putting lyrics to it. And then we started playing live. We refused to play rock venues, so every venue was like church crypts, old wine bars, anywhere that was a bit different.
I mean, obviously that was a test department thing. They played all these weird. I mean, I saw them at quite a few gigs in the early to mid 80s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In random sort of spots.
Well, I would have been at all those gigs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I've sort of in them for a week, and I had the syndrome. I was going making industrial noises. Yeah. And I think I managed them for a week, and I was no good at that. And then I just thought, I've got to get my own thing here. But all those, I was always, when I did those early gigs, I was always working the door or something and getting it on the go. But yeah, it was we were going to lots of gigs, like people like Portion Control, Death in June, White House, Pure, Coil. We were at all those early gigs, Psychic TV. So that was definitely an influence, and that was what we were part of. But at the same time, we were also listening to loads of Northern Soul, loads of disco. Loads of people like Orange Juice and things. We had very broad tastes.
It was quite a mixed up time, wasn't it, for sort of stuff?
Yeah, but the sound that came out was just because that's what I had at hand to work with.
So you used 4-track cassette thing, because because I had one of them in the 80s. They actually felt like you were living the dream when you could record on 4 tracks.
Porter Studios were
fantastic. Exactly, the Porter Studio. Yeah. I mean, they're quite collectible now. Original ones of them,
And Paul Jamrosi at a test department, Paul had he bought a big ghetto blaster with a tape to tape, 2 cassettes in, so I could record tape to tape. So you go up to Wardour Street, and there was a shop in Wardour Street for the film industry that sold blank cassettes, black ones. So you could buy C30s, C60s, C15s if you want. So you'd go up there and you'd spend 20 quid and you would buy 100 cassette tapes. Then you'd do your cut-up collages and you'd go down to the LCC, the London College, LCP, London College of Printing, in Elephant and Castle, that big tower block.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's UAL now, isn't it? Or is that the same one?
It's but then it was the LCP or the LCC, But you'd walk straight in, up the second floor, into the library. They had the latest photocopier, where you could photocopy colour, you could do colour, black and white. And me and Vic Reeves just go in there every week. And we used to take our collages in and just do massive... We'd take one paper and, put the paper in.
Do they charge you for it, or...? So you're just blagging it?
Blagging in, Goldsmiths College, they thought I was a student there in the AV because I was there so much. And Angus used to come on as a lecturer on Eisenstein. So I'd go to lectures and sort of...
Right, again, if you got the front, and again, if you just turn up places, they don't know, do they?
Yeah, not at all. Yeah. So I had my own aesthetic, which was, I don't know, a bit of Jean Cocteau, a bit of French sort of, which was, different from, it was my own sort of thing, and I was putting it across.
Well, the ones that I listened to just now, like the early cassettes, obviously you got vocals on them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the ones I know from that sort of time, they're more like just, random noise sort of things with, samples of, I say samples, normally it's someone just laying over some recordings of something from the TV or something, but you were actually...
We're actually writing, yeah. A lot of it was about paranoia, a lot of it was about guilt, a lot of it was about... being in London, we used to go out clubbing all the time and just get absolutely mortal. And every night, taking loads of poppers. And that thing where, you're laying yourself open to things and just sort of, a lot of that went to the lyrics.
But it is a lot of that stuff from the early 80s, like you said, paranoia and guilt, all the lyrics are like that, they are like, and almost, when I think of that time, it was almost like this thing as well, like 1984, as in the year, and the book. I remember being like, it was 1984, and you did feel like you're in some weird...
Definitely, yeah.
It's hard to explain from that, unless you're from that time, but the year 1984 did feel like, this big thing, you're suddenly in 1984.
Absolutely agree, and it's been 1984 ever since.
I don't know if that's a good or bad. I don't know if it's a good or bad thing, Johnny. I don't know how I feel about that. But
it gets more 1984 every year.
Yeah, well, well, do you know what? Yeah, I mean, there's a whole discussion. I probably won't go there for this, but yeah, we could go about the cycles of culture and stuff. We just feel like we're in a little bit at the moment. I almost feel like we are in like a pre-mid 70s punk rock moment at the moment, or
absolutely,
which could be a good thing, but who knows.
Things are dull at the moment, there's, things are complacent, there's nothing there's nothing new, and you can feel something new is about to break, or something new should break.
And I think cycles always come back.
Can I just say, I had the best decade of my life, the most fun decade of my life was the 90s, but by God, it was the most boring. It was so, with all that Britpop and everything, it was, it was jungle and there was drum and bass and stuff, but the 80s, wow, that was the most creative. That was when people were really kicking on from punk and looking forward and really breaking things down and being creative and just being really innovative and really, that was an amazing time. Whereas the 90s, apart from jungle and maybe more wax and stuff, all that Britpop shite.
Well, do you know what?
So redundant.
What I will say here is, like, to me, that didn't even go on my fucking radar.
Me neither.
So, to be honest, like, I thought the 90s were pretty amazing. But, again, like, Blur and Oasis, all that, didn't even fucking resonate.
Didn't touch me at all,
I mean, and again, in the 70s and 80s, I was reading Enemy and Melody Maker and stuff like that. Then, as we got towards the middle to late 80s, I just knew I didn't want to read it. I was into my guitar bands and punk and all that sort of stuff. By the mid 80s, I was just like, I was fed up of all that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe like Sonic Youth was one of the last bands, or Big Black or something like that, were the last sort of guitar-y bands. I was like, yeah, they're cool. And then by the time the 90s, I was like, fuck all that shit.
Yeah.
And that scene, Yeah,
it was ditto. It just didn't touch me at all.
But it's weird because some people used to say, oh yeah, the 80s was such a shit decade, nothing happened.
No, they were great.
And again, it's that thing, you just get the image of fucking yuppies and like Thatcher and blah, 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 It's
such a false image.
Yeah. And I had this chat recently about, I said, like the pre-acid house. Again, one of the other little stereotypes from that era is that, and again, I know you're going to say this, but yeah, I want to hear it. It's like, oh yeah, nothing happened until the acid house stuff.
No,
in London.
Loads happening.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we've already talked about loads of that sort of stuff, so...
Yeah, I mean, gay culture, high energy.
Yeah.
That paved the way. Cabaret Voltaire, if you listen to some Cabaret Voltaire albums, some of the later sort, just before Acid House.
Yeah.
It's Acid House. And I'm sure that those guys in Chicago were listening to Cabaret Voltaire.
Oh, but they were 100%. And again, this is an argument I have.
Yellow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I used to play a lot of
Yellow Magic Orchestra.
I first DJed in 1984, and I played stuff like Yellow as well as Cabaret Voltaire, and I would play Northern Soul, and I'd play electro. Again, play all over the sort of shop.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the Detroit stuff, which I love, incredible, like early Transmat, One Atkins, Metroplex, Model 500, all that sort of stuff. All that Detroit crew, they were definitely listening, whether it's through Electrify Mojo, who's the sort of DJ in Detroit who played with the Mads.
Yeah.
They were listening to all the new wave synth stuff from the UK.
Yeah.
You know, or I even remember actually Mad Mike from Underground Resistance talking about one of the biggest tunes in Detroit being Rock Lobster by the B-52s. And he was going on about, you go all these sort of ghetto sort of clubs in Detroit, and they put Rock Lobster, and the place would go
wild
to Rock Lobster. So there was all this sort of there was a big link I know B-52s are from US, not UK, but I guess what I'm saying, some of that alternative stuff, the punk, more the new wavy sort of stuff, and particularly the synth stuff, that definitely inspired.
Yeah.
And fed into all the acid house stuff.
Yeah. There was no way it was a new sort of thing.
Yeah.
And obviously too, you had Italo Disco.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was, ahead of the game, taking high energy and disco and mixing it up and stuff. And you had so many weird English sort of tracks coming out. There was loads of weird. And you had all Z. All the Z records.
I mean, obviously, like Blue Mondays, really important record.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have been made without Italo Disco.
Absolutely.
And Bobby O.
Yeah, Bobby O, yeah.
Yeah, and all that sort of pulsating, gay, high energy music. I mean, I remember some of the high energy stuff. I did get into it for a while, but then after a while there was a lot. There wasn't enough good stuff for me, but some of it was incredible.
Yeah.
The Bobby O stuff was.
Yeah.
But again, he did hundreds of records.
Yeah.
You know. So where were you hearing all this sort of stuff, Johnny, back in them days?
The Beetroot. We were DJing then. Me and Max were DJing when we got that shop opposite the Beetroot on Greek Street. That used to sell all the street sound stuff and all the...
Groove Records.
Was it Groove Records, yeah?
It's Groove Records, because again, that comes up in a lot of my chats, because that, for a lot of my mates, that was where we all bought our early electro records in 1984, 85. I'd go up there and get my yellow bag and, buy a couple of records there, because that's all I could afford. But yeah, that had the imports, didn't it?
Yeah, it had imports, yeah. So you're buying all this, all this New York stuff was coming through. I remember Test Department went, in about 84, they toured America, and they brought all the Kiss cassettes back, the original Kiss radio, the New York Kiss, and that was like early hip hop and stuff, and bits of dance and stuff in there. And that was like, wow, that was feeding off that,
But you know what? That was a big thing for me hearing the tapes from. There was Pirates in the UK, LWR, Westwood, I'll just say that. 84, 85 on his Pirate, before he did Kiss FM, he did LWR. He'd have a show on there, and he would play on his show the Kiss FM mixes from New York. So you'd hear him on the London Pirate.
Yeah.
And so obviously people would send them over to him, or he'd go and record them or whatever.
And they were mind blown, weren't they? With the...
Yeah, because you didn't really have DJs like that over here at that time, i.e. people like Chuck Chill Out and Red Alert and all that.
Red Alert, yeah.
Cutting stuff up and just like, to me that was like next fucking level. Yeah. Actually hearing the DJ and that
led on to Boogie Down Productions and stuff, didn't it? Of buying those.
I just remember hearing like they'd have the announcer. You're listening, I can't do my American accent, Johnny, but you're listening to 98, Kiss FM, New York, and then in Master Mix, Chuck Chill Out on the mix, if he sort of starts scratching over the thing. This sounded like the absolute future to me.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Too, yeah.
Beautiful, yeah.
That was the 80s.
Yeah, that was the 80s, so yeah. No, like I said, it's one of them, it gets like a... You get this in all eras, so yeah. There was stuff going on before Acid House.
Yep.
So all right, you started putting these cassettes out. How many do you put up with these cassettes, or do you just say it was just a case of you just like copying them, photocopying your sleeves? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
And then what? Where would you sell these?
You'd put there'd be fanzines. There's mainly mail order. That you'd do. There's certain industrial fanzines. You put adverts in there. They'd give you reviews. They'd give you an address. People will send you not checks, they'd send you postal orders.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you'd send
exactly.
a cassette back. It was
Exactly.
that basic, you know.
I know.
And you'd do about 100 of each. And then, but then you would buy, you know, you would buy the portion control cassette, or you would buy, you know, whoever.
I mean, I know there's a John Balance, one of the early John Balance fanzines. I've got a copy of it somewhere. And in that, there's a 2 or 3 page list, and it's all the cassettes you can order from all the different people.
Right, well, we would have been on those lists.
Yeah, I'll have to dig that. I'll try and find that. People sort of forget how important the cassette was in that time, because it was like, even though it was like punk rock thing, oh yeah, you can press up a 7-inch single and all that, and so obviously some people did do that, but the cheapest way, like you said, if you really were like, well, yeah, because that still would have cost you a bit of money back in the day.
Yeah.
You know, to press a 7-inch single, you know, cassettes were way cheaper, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And
you do them at home. You know, I did them on Paul's cassette, tape to
well,
tape.
exactly, yeah. Well, like you said, yeah, and you said you could walk into the the print, the Upper Elephant, and like print your covers or do your photocopies, or you know, there was ways to do it, weren't it? I mean,
and I still do it with Holy Joy. When we did Dash the Henge, when you came,
yeah.
the night before, I stayed up burning loads of CDRs.
I've got, do you know what? I've got one of the envelopes, exactly, yeah. That was like, yeah.
That's the home burn, you know.
Yeah, man.
I love doing it.
Yeah, it's still the same thing. I remember, like, I probably got in this more like the mid-80s. There was, what do they call it? The tape swap sort of scene.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know if it was people just doing these homemade mad cassettes of like weird experiments, and you trade them with other people, wouldn't you?
Right, yeah,
it was like the mail art sort of thing. I don't know if you ever got into the mail art.
Well, that's what we were doing on us.
Yeah.
You know, we'd get different bands from around, different things. Yeah, Muslim Gauze. You know, he'd send us his CD, his cassette. We'd send him ours.
Yeah.
And you'd swap, you know, and you'd build up. Then you start doing little gigs together, and you just sound each other out.
Yeah.
It was and it was so underground. There was one guy writing about it, Dave Henderson.
Okay, that sounds. Yeah, okay.
Dave used to write about it.
Oh wow.
Dave's son now runs Deptford Soul Club, Deptford Northern Soul Club.
Okay, all right, yeah.
It's weird how things swing around.
Do you still have any of these tapes from the early 80s?
No, gone, long gone.
You ain't even got your own copies?
I haven't even got my own copies.
No. I know you told me some of them some bits got reissued on vinyl on demand, didn't they?
On vinyl demand, the German label, Frank, yeah.
Yeah, this guy Frank runs it, because I actually did get there's pre-Muslim Gauze, it's Bryn Jones, and there's a lot of his early tape stuff. I got that recently, actually.
Wow.
Because I think he's winding that up at the moment. He keeps saying he's doing the last release, and then suddenly, because I got this John Balance one, and I think he did a Monte Casaza one, and he keeps saying it's the last one because he's been doing it for about 25 years.
He's done a festival though recently, hasn't he?
Yes, exactly. I wish I could have gone over to that. That looks amazing. But he's got an incredible collection of like 80s sort of cassettes, and again, this is a whole other world of mad obscure music, and obviously like loads of them, they're all sent in the post, but a lot of them just disappeared. Like I said, you haven't even got copies of your own ones that you've lost over the years.
Oh, mine have all gone over the years.
And they're probably sitting in someone's shelf somewhere, but like...
The amount of records I've lost over the years, and just, you know, moving from place to place to place, it's just, wow. They come back, don't they? And they're all in your head somewhere.
No, exactly. You can't keep everything. I try, but like, you know, you got... stuff does move on. All right, so you did a couple of releases on the cassettes. We did more than a couple. We did a few of them.
Did about 10.
Yeah, did you?
It was
amazing.
Prolific. Yeah. Oh, it was a long time ago. Maybe we didn't. Maybe it was just 4 or 5. But it seemed like we were always producing.
Well, there's probably some that you did. Like I said, part of that thing. I mean, I've got boxes in there of just random cassettes people sent me at the end of the 80s, more or less, and there's probably only a few copies of them. Or I even sent some tracks to like that I was doing in the 80s. You know, probably just with like one synth or a Casio SK1, or just using it. I'd
love to hear them.
I lost some of that stuff, and again, I'd like to hear it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, no, I'll try and dig out some of the cassettes. Some of them are incredible, but there's probably only, I don't know how many copies there are of these out there. But you listen to them, and they're like incredibly mad music, and and some people are just making stuff with just like tape to tapes and an effects unit or something like that, but they sound incredible.
They have this,
There's a certain sort of, like you mentioned the 4-track, they all have this certain sort of sound.
I attended some amazing gigs around that time, performances.
All right. Tell me some of the ones that
The
stood
likes
out
of
then.
seeing Pure in a council house in Hackney and White House, and there's just 20 of us in a front room with the guy from Pure just naked, just with loads of effects pedals and loads of feedback, just attrition, pure attrition. Wow. There's a gallery on Rosebery Avenue. We went to see Genesis Peerage put a night on there one night, so we went along. I think it was the Air Gallery it was called, and Coyle were doing something with Mark Almond. So Mark was in the corner doing his kitchen sink pottery, bent me over the sink and he beat me black and blue, and I loved every minute of it, and my God, it was just trauma. Meanwhile, the two guys from Coyle are naked, covering themselves in oil, doing all these moves. And me and Max were sat in the front next to Angus at the test department. And I just looked, I noticed he put something up his arse, you know. I see how Max just moved to the back. So we, drinking bottles of cider.
Oh no.
I think we were drinking the cider. And we moved to the back of the room. As I transcend to the sun, I will indeed turn. And he just opened his leg, boom, and just shot over the audience.
Wow.
I will turn shit to gold. Angus got the full spray.
Those were the days, Johnny.
Fantastic.
No health and safety at that performance.
No health and safety.
Oh, wow.
And just, beautiful guys with just satanic horoscopes tattooed on their faces and just really crude. Just lots of witches there, lots of just.
Well, some of the early gigs I went to in Hackney in the mid '80s. Again, when I went to see some test department ones as well, but were Psychic TV ones in these tiny little clubs, and there'd be only like 50 people there, and it's normally ended up with Genesis Peerage, getting his cock out and just singing some, shouting through a mic.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I wasn't quite sure what I was, I felt I was at some sort of weird cutting edge, but I wasn't quite sure what was going on. Yeah.
I don't think at the time you do. I think years later, later you realise that.
Yeah, well, exactly. I want to ask you one thing actually, because you mentioned me earlier on. You recorded some stuff at Cold Storage.
Yeah.
What was that? Was that like when you records that you did or something?
Records,
some of the early records.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain what Cold Storage? It was a recording place. Do you want to explain what it was, where it was?
Cold Storage. It was a studio on Brixton Hill or Acre Lane.
I think it was on Acre Lane.
Acre Lane.
Yeah.
Set up by the guys from This Heat, Charles Hayward and Charles Bullen, and they set up the studio. Then they started renting it out.
I think it was wasn't it in an old pie factory or something like that?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, because as well as weird industrial, I do like a pie, so it's a perfect combination for me.
Oh, there's no pies left by the time we got there, I'm afraid.
I know, mate. Who ate all the pies?
Yeah.
Probably not you, because you're probably skinny, and you're probably skinny then. You're still skinny now.
I love a pie.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah. You would be a proper Geordie if you did like a pie, mate. Yeah. Well, so maybe explain who This Heat were for those who aren't like.
This Heat were a South London sort of agit-prop post-rock band.
Late 70s.
Late 70s, yeah.
78, 79.
Yeah.
They
weren't post-punk.
No.
They were jazz influenced, but they were really
fucking
fast, hard and heavy and really political. And so over the years they've just grown and grown. And obviously when they split up, Charles Hayward started doing things at the Albany, and he started doing things with Jack Balchin, who was Test Department sound man. Next to the Albany Deptford was an old, not an abattoir, an old, what's it called when dead bodies get?
Oh, mortuary.
A mortuary, yeah. It's all tiled. They set up a drum workshop in there.
That's not how they were making the pies, was it?
No, I hope not.
All right, but yeah, because sometimes I played there's a tune by This Heat called 24-track loop.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And did you know that one?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it sounds like a Mutant drum and bass song because it's this break put through I don't know, loads of phase pedal or something. I don't quite know what they're doing to it, but it sounds like it's almost like a time stretched breakbeat tune. And sometimes I play it at the end of a set just to freak people out, and they're always like, "What the fuck are this?" And then when I tell them it's like some 1979. They just go crazy.
Freak.
Yeah, because it does sound like way ahead of the game. They set up the studio, didn't they? Cold Storage in this old abandoned pie factory. Yeah. So, and there's some quite mad recording from that studio. So yeah, I'm just interested in all of your experience from recording there, what you remember about the place, because
I remember it being very shabby, very dirty,
Yeah.
very Brixton.
Yeah.
Just a real bare bunker of a room with a sofa in, a sort of mixing console, and we were in there overnight. It was, we had a few night sessions, so we start at 10, come out at 8 in the morning.
Was that because that was the cheap bit to do it overnight?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, because that was the classics. That was a classic studio thing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But were they that busy then that you needed to do that, or was it?
I think so.
Yeah. It was like a busy studio.
It
wasn't.
was a proper working studio.
Yeah.
And we worked with Ben Young, who was from Bristol, and he'd been part of the Wild Bunch.
All right.
He was on the fringes of that sort of scene, Nelly Hooper and everyone. So Ben was quite sonically brilliant, but very laid back. He liked to smoke, whereas we liked speed. We do all those early sessions at Cold Storage.
The clues had been there from your early band, Johnny. Yeah, exactly.
It was called Cold Storage, and it was a very cold, old...
Well, do you know, I guess...
Down a back alley?
I guess that's probably all you can say. That's kind of what I'd expect it to be like. I'd be kind of disappointed if you said it was super plush and...
No, not at all.
There was a receptionist, making you coffee and stuff like that.
Anti, all that, yeah.
But some legendary recordings come out of that place.
Yeah.
All right, so Band of Holy Joy. So what, did you end up signing a record deal after all these sort of doing your weirdo cassette phase? Or
we did, yeah. Well, me and Max were DJing a lot, playing exactly the same music you're talking about. We were playing bits of electro, bits of New York sort of disco, mixed with Bohannon, mixed with Yellow, mixed with Cabaret Voltaire, mixed with sort of some Louis Jordan, Stooges, and we were DJing at the Batcave.
Oh wow!
Every now and then we'd do about once a month at the Batcave.
Yeah.
Max sort of had grown up with Ollie and John Klein.
But I did go to Batcave a few times. I mean, I went when it was at Gossips, not when it was in...
Well, we did Mead Street.
Yeah, okay.
And then we DJ'd there once or twice. Then we DJ'd when it moved to Gossips, to somewhere else, to off Cornaby Street somewhere. But then we were also DJing in the Harp Club in New Cross, and we were in the top room, the room at the top. And then we started DJing for Flim Flam, which is Jonathan Moore and Rob. And Robert Lancaster ran it. I love Flim Flam.
Tell me about Flim Flam then. Tell me about that.
Flim Flam had DJs like Rob Day, Jonathan Moore, and they were playing go-go, all that across the tracks type post sort of funk sort of music. Lots of disco stuff like, Grace Jones, Le'Veon Rose. It was a real success. In South London, everyone went to Flim Flam.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a great spot.
It was a great club, so they made a lot of money. So Robert Lancaster decided to set a record label up. And because me and Max were DJing up the top, he put a Holy Joy gig on up there.
Oh, wow.
He really liked us. He says, look, I'm going to set a label up. Would you come and be on the label? We went, yeah. We transitioned from an electro thing to a sort of urban folk thing, using all the junk shop instruments. And we moved from the Dr. Rhythm and the Roland 808 to a Casio.
Right.
Casio beats.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because they could do tangos and they could do waltzes, and we were just really sort of...
You had a bloody 808, mate. What are you doing?
Threw it away.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
But that's how we started making records. Flim Flam.
I remember Flim. I don't think I went loads to Flim Flam, but I do remember going to Flim Flam.
It was one of the best clubs I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And I was still really embroiled in club culture at that point. Going home at night and making loads of music,
So what sort of year was this? 86 or something like that? Or
85. 86.
Yeah. I do remember the Harp Club up the top, the Irish bar up the top, because I always used to end up all there because actually it was a lot more fun in there than downstairs sometimes. Not necessarily for the Flim Flam, for some of the other things that I went to.
Yeah. Well, then Alison started a million rubber bands, didn't she?
Okay, yeah.
And that was more indie and sort of Orange Juice and Stooges and stuff, but that was really good too.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think I was sort of getting a bit fed up at that sort of scene by that. Then me personally, I was just more into the rare groove and delirium and early hip hop and house sort of stuff. Then,
well, by 87, 88, for me, it was going to squat parties, going to Mutoid Waste, places, in the bus depot on King's Cross, Battle Bridge Road. There used to be loads of things up there.
Yeah, do you know what?
It became Bagley's and...
Yeah, I know. I don't think I... Maybe, again, I went to loads of dodgy parties back in the day. It's hard to remember all of them. So I'm not sure if I went to the Battlebridge Road ones. I've heard lots of stories about them being amazing parties.
They were great. They were absolutely
Do you want to say anything about them or them ones? Or
just that they were really dirty warehouses at King's Cross, where you walked up in pure darkness, go through a little door, all of a sudden you're in this big warehouse pumping brilliant music.
I mean, King's Cross is such a, it's been transformed, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, the Mutoid Waste parties in the bus depot on King's Cross, they were legendary. You're in a bus garage and you've got all these weird vehicles that they're working on, and you're dancing around it, and they're playing all this sort of hard industrial dance music.
Well, they were ones that you did feel like you were in a Mad Max movie or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, again, that they really gave you that you're living in some dystopian future sort of stuff. Yeah. Like you said, some of the real early warehouse parties they used to go to where they literally just be like a single light, some red stripe and a decks. These were the opposite, weren't they? They were just full on, you're living in some weird sculpture park.
Absolutely.
Robots and burnt out cars and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, and then there was the Dollhouse in Peckham, and then there was in Brixton, the Cool Town in Brixton. All these different sort of places started springing up.
Yeah, I mean, I did a few things down at the Dollhouse. I was down there. I was DJing for this band called Rough and Ready, and
I know Rough and Ready.
Yeah. So I was DJing for them and travelling around. So they were involved in that whole sort of South London.
And Back to the Planet. And
exactly.
Fordham Park and all that. Yeah.
No, exactly. I toured around Ireland with Rough and Ready and Back to the Planet. Yeah. End of the 80s or 1990 or something like that.
I know Henry quite well.
Yeah, sure.
Henry,
yeah.
Wow. We were on tour with the band by this time, so a lot of that in London just passed me right by.
Yeah, so you were just around the world touring?
Yeah. They had to deal with rough trade and just went off. But it was kicking off and I was aware of it, and all my friends were into it. And, we used to... A rave I went to a lot was Resurrection in Newcastle, which my friend John set up, and they would have Colin Dale, Prodigy, early Carl Cox and stuff, but that hardcore break, that hardcore, I used to love it. Wow, I've never been in a club like that since. Just the energy was off the scale.
How big was that place? Was it a big venue?
2,000.
Oh wow, no, well that's pretty big, man. That's big. That's big enough. Yeah, it wasn't a tiny little thing.
An old ballroom just full of mad Geordies having ecstasy for the first time. The first E I ever had was Sean McCluskey had a club, Pre-Acid House, on a Saturday night in a wine bar off Piccadilly. I can't remember where it was, but we went down and they were playing all that rare groove sort of thingy, that music, and someone said, "Do you want an E?" I said, "Yeah." And my best friend from Newcastle was down, and my friend Fitz from Lewisham, he was with us, and there's a load of Geordies in there, and we had an E, and my mind just blew wide open, and we ended up on Piccadilly, on Eros, stroking these skinheads' hairs, going, "Oh, you're lovely." And these skinheads just melted. I couldn't believe the audacity.
Wow. And that could have gone certain different ways.
Could have went anyway, absolutely. But that was my first E, and it was like, wow, that was something.
Well, do you know what? I've had a few little chats with Sean McCluskey, and then he said he will do a podcast sometimes. So maybe
Sean, he's great. My favourite London club ever was the Brain, which Sean ran on Wardour Street, and that was the club. Every night was.
I went to the Brain. I went to the Brain a few times. Yeah, when I had my mate Jerome on the podcast as well, I think that was one of his early gigs. Was he DJ'd at the Brain Club?
Wow! I saw Orbital do their first ever performance there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Another guy who I used to hang out with a lot in the 90s was Robert, Tonka Sound System. Robert's a legend. He was an older guy, and he loved Cannes, he loved Neubauten, but he loved his Chicago house and disco. And he brought through Chucky and Harvey and all these guys. Tonka was like, wow, you've hit a Tonka party. The yellow speakers, they were the best. And I became really good friends with Robert, mid to late 90s. I missed the heyday of Tonka, but me and Robert became really good friends.
Well, it's funny having to podcast over all the episodes, like the one with Giselle. She used to go to Tonga parties on the beach in Brighton. In 99, and she actually gave me, I've got all these photos and the good photos on the beach that they used to set up after the Zap Club or whatever it was that they used to do their night, but then they do it on the beach, and set up all the sound system. And
oh wow, I've got my name on a Tonka flyer.
Really?
Yeah. I'll find it out for you.
Nice.
It was right at the end of Tonka, and I don't think anyone turned up. Robert set it up. It was in Brixton, but I've got the flyer, so I'll find it out for you.
Yeah, man.
I think Harvey's name's on there.
Okay, cool. What are you on there as, Johny Brown or?
Johnny Too Bad.
Johnny Too Bad?
Yeah.
Was that your DJ name? Or?
That was my DJ name, yeah.
Okay, cool, man.
In the 80s, in the 90s, sort of mid-90s, late 90s, we started doing these nights in Brixton called Bump and Grin in an arch opposite Brady's. It was a Portuguese restaurant by day, but by night, every Friday night we'd hire it out. And in the front I was playing funk and disco, and in the back we had techno DJs, Godwin and people like that, and that became the Brixton Underground. And that was the start of the Alabama 3. So Ed Reel, that's how I ran the club with. Me and Ed were sort of partners in setting this club up.
Is that the Alabama 3 guy?
Yeah.
Did he have a jewellery shop or something? Or one of them did. I remember I used to go to this jeweller's down up in Waterloo.
Right.
This was in the 90s at some point.
Okay.
And I remember it was something to do with Alabama 3 because he kept telling me to come to the gigs, but I never ended up seeing them. But he was doing these, because I remember getting some jewellery for some girl I was seeing at the time, and he used to make these quite weird jewellery. Yeah, I don't know. Probably going off on a random tangent there. But
I wonder how it is, I don't know. I went on the first ever Alabama 3 gigs were in Italy, and we toured Italy as the Brixton Underground, and I was DJing and I was playing some music with Hacker and Bill, but the Alabamas were the main thing, but it was just 3 of them. It was before they became this big boring thing. It was just 3. It was Rob and Jake, who I'd known Jake for years, and Ed, and they're just 3, and this guy Pierre's doing the beats. Wow, it was like the Sex Pistols. They came on, just little G-strings on, purple afros, absolutely sort of doing this total piss take thing of Afro culture. But it was so on the edge, it was like, wow, brilliant. But then they came back and started taking themselves really seriously and went country and all that.
yeah, I guess that's always...
I lost interest.
I guess that's always the sort of problem, ain't it? As soon as you take yourself too seriously, it can all go downhill.
Yeah. But I loved Brixton around then. I DJ'd lots and put lots of nights on in Brixton. And I used to DJ for Pendragon. I had my own chill out room with Pendragon, my own sort of room where I could just play funk and reggae and stuff. And I used to love that Depth Charge song, Bounty Killer.
That's such a killer tune.
And I tell you another song I loved from that era, Acid Funk by Scott and Hawk Within.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if I know that one actually.
The Hardkiss brothers.
Okay, oh right, okay, from San Francisco.
San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah.
I met him in the End Up Club in San Francisco. Scotty Hardkiss. We don't need no 303s, this is the next school. Doing all that stuff organic. When you're out on your ass on that California grass, that shit is crazy. I used to play that loads, and we used to, Pendragon, every year they used to go to a place called Seose. Giselle used to come out. And every year there was this field in the middle of France, and I think the Mutoids used to come out. There's 4 or 5 different sound systems, and Pendragon was one of them. They used to set up in the middle, and for 10 days we'd just play and not sleep. And that went on for 5 years. That was what a festival should be. Just total freedom, total autonomy.
It's harder and harder for them festivals to go on, isn't there?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, there's the one in Portugal that's still going on, Frequency Festival. I think is one of the last big sort of free festivals that's still going on.
I mean, I love them. Absolutely.
Yeah, no. To me too.
I went to Stonehenge when I first came to London, about 82, 81, 82, 83. Some hippie just took us down in a van, and me and his girl Laura, who we were living with, and Max, we went down this van. We had a lot of speed, eating out our heads. And we pulled up at Stonehenge. I'll never forget this. And I wasn't expecting anything. I'm just, I didn't like hippies, Got to the gate, 4 policemen. I'll never forget this. There's 4 policemen stood there. We passed the policeman, drove in, and this little 5-year-old came walking up. Do you want to buy some Red Lab? Want to buy some acid? And behind him was an older hippie with this sign just going Red Lab, acid. I looked back at the police, I looked at the kid. Wow, this is something. What a festival. We'd parked up. For 2 days I just wandered watching everything went on. No law there at all. Hawkwind played, I didn't get them at all. I didn't appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean,
love them now, but I just didn't get it.
I don't know. Hawkwind were one of them bands. I appreciate it from what they were, but I've never really been in a Hawkwind frame of mind. Yeah. As much as I love all where they come from and what they did, I'd find it hard to put a Hawkwind album on.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know.
Yep. But I left Stonehenge thinking that was great. I just thought it was fantastic. Then I went to Glastonbury 2 years later, sort of 87, and it was all right, but it wasn't Stonehenge.
No.
The French festival was Stonehenge. It was that sort of, openness. Then I went to Glastonbury about 10 years ago.
No, it's weird. I mean, no, the old. I know what you mean from them. The few festivals. I went to a few festivals in the 80s, and yeah, them old free festivals with the proper travellers.
Yeah.
And again, stuff like Rough Rough and Ready, they come through all that sort of scene and all that sort of early rave scene, Spiral Tribe and all that come out of all that sort of scene. And yeah, there was just, like you said, the kids selling acid and speed and all that, and there's a certain. It was a real alternative lifestyle.
Yeah.
It was a real a bit like saying going into the Mutoid Waste was this mad, like, living in the future. Some of them parties were a bit like that. They really were.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah, they changed your reality for a.
They were like a change of reality. They were like if you like, the hippies who were doing it for real, like, living this fucking weird nomadic lifestyle and doing what the fuck they wanted, and like I said, not giving a shit about the police or
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like I said, going on for days and no limits really.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it kind of blew my mind first time seeing that sort of stuff. And like you said, yeah, when you see the commercialisation of, say, Glastonbury or some of them sort of festivals, it's not the same, is it?
No, not at all.
No.
It's the dead zones, yeah. Even the weird anarchist bit that they put on is a dead zone. Go on, you can go at that corner and be an anarchist and be wild. It just feels a bit...
All right, so since all the mid-90s sort of stuff, what sort of followed on from that sort of period in your life?
I got a straight job, but I also started DJing at Resonance Radio. Not DJing, just putting on shows. Never liked radio all that much. I don't like radio on DJs, celebrities. But I've always loved the idea of radio, and I've always wanted to put me weird soundscape mixes on air. Holy Joy released a record about 2001, and by the publicist. It was on Rough Trade by the publicist. He says, Johnny, I want you to go down to this new radio station in Denmark Street. It's called Resonance, and you're going to get an hour to talk about your album and other things. So I went in, I talked about my album. I thought, this is good. And I've started messing about on the decks and things, and I went downstairs, and this guy, Ed Baxter, who was the MD of Resonance, another guy from the Cold Storage, actually, a friend of the Seats.
Wow. Yeah.
From the LMC, the London Musicians Collective. He says, how was that for you, Johnny? I says, oh, that was great, Ed. I said, I'd love my own radio show. What do you know about radio? I says, nothing. I know absolutely nothing. I said, but I know what I don't like about it. I don't like Radio 1 and commercial radio when I turn it on. I've always wanted to do something to myself. He said, okay then. He said, I'll give you 4 weeks. See if you can do a radio show. So he gave us 4 Fridays. I messed up on the first 2. On the first one, it was 12 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. And I thought, great, I'm on the radio. So I had a tape of Vagina Dentanta Organa. Geordie Val's in front of it.
Yeah.
And which I used to listen to in the house. And I also had a tape of the Chrysler String Orchestra.
Right.
Of a record they'd put out on Factory Records. And the Chryslers were sort of friends of the band of Holy Joy. So I'm going to mix these two. And I'm going to do it for 30 minutes. And so I put it on. The Chryslers come in with a bit of Shostakovich. And then Vagina Dentanta Organa comes in. It is a tape of a couple having sex in an art gallery in Cadaqués in Spain. So the classical's going, I think I got a drum beat going too. And all of a sudden all this moaning goes on and all this. But the way he's done it, it sounds like they're in pain. It's transgression. The door of the studio's burst open. The manager Canute went there. What the hell are you doing, Johnny? He says, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. This is before the watershed. There's kids listening, mothers listening, and you're playing this. Stop. So I had to stop it and So Ed went, right, Johnny, try again next week. So the next week I came back and I brought my friend in, this actor, Tamdine Byrne. I thought we'll do some poetry and we had a theatre group together, we had a theatre company. And I says, Tam, what do you want to do? He says, well, actually, I've just done this audio book of Irvin Welsh's Filth. He says, why don't I play that? I says, audiobook. I go on and slap that on. So I put it on. Again, I was mixing some stuff underneath it.
Yeah, I can see where this is
The
going.
door bursts open. Ed says, what the hell? This is 12:30.
Yeah.
He says, you've got 2 weeks left. So the third, and he said, Johnny, this is resonance. He said, what we don't want is any mediocrity. You know, there's certain rules here.
Well, I was going to say, there's not many stations that give you like a couple of extra chances after like them two shows.
Well,
so
the third week, I brought a folk band in.
Right.
And I brought all these Neil Young and Van Morrison and Bob Dylan bootlegs in. I thought, well, that doesn't get played on the radio. And this little folk outfit was really nice, playing these little nice John Barleycorn, went to market,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. I did the whole hour, mixed it all. It went flawless. I went downstairs. I says, Canute, how was that then? He went, Johnny, if I want to hear dross, I'll just turn the dial to XFM. That was the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard. I had 1 week left. I was only crying when I left. I was just, oh my God, blown it. Next week I brought a real string quartet in. Cello, viola, violin. And I brought the sound artist in called Melanie Clifford. And she was doing the stuff where she was putting contact mics on windows and scratching messages in the window so it was all coming out. And then she'd break the glass and she'd dance on the glass. So I mic'd it all up. Got the quartet playing. I think I brought Tam back in to do some non-Scottish vernacular. Off it went. No CDs, no vinyl. It was all live. Went downstairs and Ed went, wow, that was something. So I just broke the mould there and then. So that was it. I had a show for the next 22 years. And for the next year, I didn't use CDs. I didn't use vinyl. I just used live musicians, live actors, and just pushing it out as far as I possibly could. We used to do 12-hour shows there on acid. Not all-nighters, with live bands, with orchestras, with actors.
No, I mean, I love it. I mean, to be honest, sometimes I'm driving with a friend of mine and we'll be going through the stations and then we always put Resonance on just to see what's going on and, you know.
Will you come and do an hour and a half of Controlled Weirdness for me? Bad punk?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah, I'd love to, yeah.
That's a deal. I also, around that time too, I had a theatre group with Tam Dean Byrne called Underground Utopia, and we put 5 plays on. First one was at the Scala with Sean McCluskey. They're called Cruel Britannia, and Bill Drummond did the stage set. Irvin put money into it, and we did this play called Cruel Britannia, from a Greek myth, but all about Britain at that time. And it was a real piss take of Britain. It was a really scathing thing. And then we did one about Rambo being on the Eurostar, called The Assassins. And then we did one, William Burroughs steals, he joyrides Coleridge's Rime of the Ancient Mariner. It's in New York, and he gets Johnny Thunders, Kathy Acker and Jean-Michel Basquiat. And he goes, guys, New York's dead. We've got one last chance before these yuppies really sort of bring us down. He says, we're going to go on one last adventure. We're going to steal Coleridge's poem and we're going to joyride it. So they steal the poem, and now the stormblast came and it was tyrannous and strong, and off they go. And the albatross. And as the play gets on, it mirrors their lives. Acker had cancer at the time, so she's dying. Burroughs shot his wife, like the mariner shot the albatross. And from that moment, Burroughs was cursed with the ugly spirit, and his whole life was trying to write through the ugly spirit.
Yeah, I've heard him say that, yeah.
And in the Coleridge poem, it's when the guy looks over, the mariner looks over the sea, and he sees all these sea monsters and ugly mugwumps, and he thinks, well, they're lovely. That's when the curse gets broken. So they both arrive at this thing where love overcomes. So my play just sort of took off. We did The Assassins in Manchester, then we did The Mariner in Glasgow at the Citizens, and then we were hailed as the best British theatre group, the most adventurous. And then the next year we got a show at the Traverse at the Edinburgh Festival. We had 200 quid. All the other theatre companies in the Traverse, because it's the Edinburgh Festival, have about 30 grand. Oh, we fell flat on our face. Went from being the best young British theatre group to a national embarrassment.
Oh, wow.
Oh, so that was the end of my theatre career. But me and Tom had kept that going, you know.
Incredible,
But that sort of transferred from there straight to Resonance. We started doing the live radio plays for years. We did all these, we just write a radio play and just bang it out.
So you're still doing that all the time?
I don't do radio plays anymore, or plays. But we did it for years and years after. And then me boroughs play, a director in Paris, Dan Jamet, he got hold of it. And he was the top director in Paris at that time. And we put the Ram and the Ancient Mariner on in Paris with Denis Levant was my main man, he was my boroughs. And that was a massive success. And it toured the whole of France and Switzerland. And I lived in Paris for 4 months while it was being made. That was fantastic. That was the noughties, so 2004, 2005. Yes. So I finally got a bit of success on the theatre thing. It had a happy ending.
You've had a diverse career of many different hats, haven't you, Johnny?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All the stuff that you're doing, yeah.
And so I've always kept my hand in DJing, and I've kept the radio thing going for all that time, and I've kept Holy Joy going. And I now believe in that Northern Soul thing of keep the faith. I think if you do something, you keep with it and you stick with it. But you keep your mind open to whatever's new.
I know you're not closed-minded to any new music or anything, are you?
No, not at all.
I see on your socials you're always out looking, and to be honest, that's the way to be, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
You keep the faith, don't stop.
Yeah.
Don't stop looking for that next little sort of thing.
Yeah. But now we've got the luxury at our age of being able to look back too, which I really love. Yeah. I love looking back now to... You know, I'm reading about Granny Takes a Trip at the moment.
Oh, and the Paul Gorman book.
Paul Gorman book, yeah.
Yeah, well, do you know...
Bernie Rhodes gets a mention in it.
Oh, does he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. He's, like I said, I'd love to find more about Bernie, because I'm trying to dig stuff up about him. He seems to be one of the most hated people from that era. And from the only clips I've seen him, he does seem a bit of a prick. But at the same time, he had this incredible influence. Yeah. And you don't have to be a nice person to do amazing stuff, do you? Like,
not at all, yeah.
You know, but no, you're right. I think it's really good to look back at stuff to get inspiration, and as long as you're not trapped in some retro sort of bullshit where you're trying to pretend you're something from the past.
Absolutely.
That you're not. You know, and
it's archaeology now, isn't it? It's museums.
Yeah, and I know for a fact, you know, just from talking to you today, I know you're not doing that. You're just going with the flow of the time, and you still are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I know you said before we started you weren't sure how much you're going to remember, but like once you start digging in there, all this sort of stuff starts to come out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know.
I mean, in the 80s, I lived a life.
Yeah.
I lived it 24 hours a day. I loved, you know, the fact I was in London was just immense to me, and I made every minute of it count. I just loved it all, and I think the same applied to the 90s and the same applied to the noughties.
What do you think of London now?
Love it. I love all the little coffee bars. I love Planet Wax, going in there with you. I love all these record shops. You know, I love Dash the Henge. I love that record store, one in West Norwood. I don't go clubbing anymore, so I wouldn't know what clubs are.
No.
But I love being in London. I love the different cultures.
Because what I say is, because you do get people, and I still get people say to me, or even friends of mine who've left London, who go, oh, there's shit in London now, nothing's going on in London, and I just totally disagree with all that sort of stuff. I mean, funny enough, I was at a thing at Sean McCluskey's gallery a couple of weeks ago, and it was Andy Tchaikovsky from the Roxy Club was speaking, and he was, I respect Andy. He did the fridge and all that sort of stuff. He's there with his missus, but then he was just talking about, it's a little festival that Sean had put on. He was doing a little Q&A, and then he was just talking about, he's got a book about the fridge coming out, but he was basically saying, there's no sort of squats and sort of youth culture in London anymore, and blah blah blah. I more or less said, no, that's absolute bullshit, with respect, because I respect him. I discussed all the stuff that's going on in Deptford and Newcastle and loads of stuff that's going on. And to be fair to Andy, he was like, well, maybe I don't know all this sort of stuff that's going on. But yeah, at the end, as I was leaving, like Sean was there, and he'd come up to me and he went, I'm really glad you said all that, because, I know Sean's doing his new gallery and all that sort of stuff. And Sean's a similar sort of person. He's still...
Well, Sean does 1, 2, 3, 4, and he does all the electronic stuff as well as that old archaeology.
Yeah, he's a person who's not stopping. He's not resting on his laurels or living in the past.
No, he's very much...
And again, it's good to know the past and respect and enjoy it, blah, 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 but still keep pushing forward as well. So I think you're definitely on that tip as well. So it's good to hear
Up until May of this year, I lived in Dalston for 17 years, Stoke Newton. You go get the bus home late at night. Every single bar, all these clubs and these basements, they're rammed. And they're all playing different weird music that you pick up on eventually off NTS or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And then you go further out from Dalston to Tottenham, and they're just breaking barriers, you know, and all these New River Studios and all these little warehouses and things. They're doing stuff that we can't comprehend. And they're all 21 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
Italians and stuff, you know. I'm aware that there's all... Yeah.
No, that's
and then you've got Deptford, yeah. Exactly.
No, that's good. That's good to hear from someone like you who's been through all the different sort of scenes, and you haven't got that jaded sort of like, oh yeah, back in my day.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love talking about the 80s and the 90s and reminiscing about all these sort of stuff.
Yeah. But you know, you go to Soho on a Saturday afternoon. People go, Soho's dead. You go to Soho. There's queues of little black kids about 16, 17 years old round the strop from these weird little skate shops and stuff. Queues round the block. It's buzzing. It's alive, you know.
Exactly. I saw something on Twitter the other day, and it was some picture of Leicester Square on and it was like, this is Leicester Square on a Saturday, and it was empty, and people just going about, oh, London's dead, and it was, you know, it's all that just classic right wing bullshit that gets on social media, just saying, oh yeah, look how terrible it is now. I'm same as you. I've been out a lot lately because I've been doing music up in the studio up in just north of Oxford Street. I'm being in Soho on a Tuesday night. I like in the pub at sort of 8, 9 in the evening.
Yeah,
rammed. The
whole
whole Soho buzzing.
Rammed.
And I'm like Tuesday, and I'm like, and it actually reminded me because I was sort of thinking, oh, maybe it's gone a bit more quiet in the West End, mate. Buzzing.
It's buzzing.
Buzzing.
Yeah.
I like really buzzing.
Yeah.
And I was actually like, yeah.
Yeah, and there'll be places that we don't even know about. We shouldn't know about.
We shouldn't know,
because we're old men now.
No, exactly.
And it's great.
Yeah.
Get on with it, I think. It's
yeah. Do you know what? Let's finish it there for the moment.
Okay.
But it's been a pleasure today, Johnny.
Thank you, Neil.
Pleasure.
It's lovely to talk.
Yeah, it's good to talk.
Yeah.
It's good to talk, as they used to say back in the day.
Yeah.
All right, mate. I'll shake your hand. Nice one, Johnny.
Excellent.
Respect. How was that for you, darling?
Oh, I loved it.